You don't technically need this car. You say that out loud to yourself. You say, I have no space. You say, I'm just looking. Then you click. Then you zoom in on photo number 87 and whisper, oh no. Then you text a friend, the one who always enables you. You say to yourself, this is the last one, knowing it is not. You don't need this car. But maybe, just maybe, this car needs you. Bring a trailer. It's never just a car.
On the latest episode of The Wrap, we go through round 1 of the URC and PD round 2. But more importantly, we're introducing the new community corner. Stay tuned to find out.
You're listening to Wrap, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wrap. It's me, Harley, in the hot seat again. I'm joined by Dan, Nick and Hattie. How are we all doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
All right.
Right, as we are a rugby pod, I'm going to try and start with some rugby and before we get into the results team. So, Dan, how did Abertillery do this weekend?
Well done.
Again, so round 1 of the Championship Cup against Talwyn, local Welsh derby, and we came away with a 27-21 victory. Proper old school Gwent derby, really, where it was it was blow for blow and jab for jab. So we were pleased to come away with a good win against a good Championship team who were in that league last season, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we're really pleased to be in the hat for round 2.
Excellent.
Excellent stuff. I always like looking at community games. Do not ask me how Old Pens went.
How did old Pens go, Harley, on the weekend?
We lost 31-21 to Blackwood Stars.
Close.
Yeah, I said I can't say I was involved in it particularly at all heavily. I was on dad duty, and frankly, I'm hopefully going to try and get on the field this weekend if I'm selected, but we'll see.
And that's the reason why, if you were available to play, it would have been different.
Harley, the hat-trick hero.
Yeah. Everyone loves a lack of utility back 5 forward. Right, so let's moving on. Let's kicking this off with Nick's never-ending news desk. Here it's quite light this weekend, Nick.
It says disappointingly light, but I'll start off with the appointment of Gavin Marshall, who's joining the Welsh Rugby Union as Chief Operating Officer. He's had quite a lot of experience, including the position of Chief Executive at Bristol Sports Group, which, from my understanding, not only includes the men's and the women's Bristol's Bears rugby team, but also Bristol City men's and women football team, and also Bristol Flyers, who are basketball.
Yeah.
He actually officially starts on Monday, the 3rd of November, but apparently the rugby union said he's already been contributing to something that's been going on. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called the review of the professional game in Wales. You probably might not have come across that information, but it's apparently there's a review of the game in rugby in Wales. And it's a type of position in most organisations where you sort of report directly to the CEO. So with Abitini being on a long-term sick leave, I guess in reality he will be the main person. He'll be in charge. I don't know, Harley, do you know anything about him from your sort of connections or support of Bristol or anybody else?
I'm very much a classic fan of Bristol, so you sort of see what's on the pitch. Anything in the background, I don't have the much thing. I think Hattie probably knows a fair bit than me, especially since he was involved with the women's basketball team there.
Yeah, so the predominant thing I know about Bristol, I'm not a Bristol fan, but just in terms of how sports teams work, I'm quite interested in that as a massive nerd. So Bristol, the people who own Bristol, they own all of those teams, and they have some creative accounting from what I can work out. It's run very similar way to allegedly. It's run in a very similar way to like how Spanish football teams and like sports teams work, how the French do it as well. So they'll have the big football team, and then they'll have a rugby team, and they'll have a field hockey team, and they'll have a basketball team, and they all come under Barcelona or whatever. And money ends up places, allegedly. But it's all very interesting.
But does all that cash flow fall into one pot then, and then is distributed as they see fit?
So I know with like in Spain, it's kind of like used as a tax write-off for the football clubs. So like the football club is the one making money, and then they'll have like hockey, basketball, whatever, and they'll pay people kind of overinflated salaries there. But it's just a way of moving money around and investing in things and lots of that. I'm not an accountant, I'm a historian. I just think it's interesting.
So Cardiff will come under that sports group now then.
You said it, not me.
Is that right? Is that right, Harley? Or is that the way it's looking to go? Or
I mean, I've thought if we were going to end up being merged with any Premiership side, it'd be Bath, considering how many players we loan from them at the moment.
oh,
I think he's resigning from his Bristol post.
Yeah.
I
But the
think that's what-
connection's still there.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, moving on to some other sort of Cardiff-ish news. Alex Cuthbert, 35, who obviously played mainly for the Cardiff, also played for Exeter and the Ospreys as well. The wingers announced his retirement. He's obviously a British and Irish Lion too, and he got 57 caps for Wales and scored 17 tries for his country. But I don't think he's played since season before last. I can't remember when he played. It was a game. I think he was playing for Ospreys, and he was about to go in. I think it was maybe playing Munster at home, and we were about to score in the corner, and he did his hamstring, I think, didn't he? And then he sort of pulled up. I don't think he's played much after that. I can't remember actually. But anyway, he's announced his retirement, and in fairness to him, a very successful career.
Yeah, so I think that particular game it cost Ospreys 2 match points and I think a home knockout for something or another. It was quite heartbreaking, especially for him. Yeah, I think he was let go at the end of that season by Ospreys and was looking around for a club. Sort of did the Foxy thing of not officially retiring, realizing there's no offer, and just went, let's call it quit, and I'll make good on my on the money I get from going on Scum 5 every week.
It is, I'd like to know who he was announcing his retirement for, whether it was for the public or himself. He had a good career.
Yeah. Okay, and that's the end of the news.
Oh, excellent. So let's get into the nitty gritty of the rugby while we're here. So Friday night up in Belfast, we have Ulster beat Dragons 42-21. What I thought was a much improved game of the Dragons, but it probably still shows how far they've got to go. Dan, do you want to give us the ins and outs?
yeah, okay, yeah. I agree with your sort of initial assessment there. 42-21, I think, sort of flattered Ulster a little bit towards the end. They had sort of 64% territory in possession, so the tail of the tape was that it was a little bit one-sided. However, I thought, unlike Dragons RFC of old, they hung in there and stuck in the fight for longer than they normally would. And after that sort of sucker punch of a try, just after half-time, I was expecting the floodgates to open, but they didn't. And I would have thought, on the whole, sort of like a 35-28, 35-28 victory to Ulster would have been like a fair result in fantasy land, whereby we pick up a couple of bonus points, and that would have been a good result because I wasn't expecting a win over there, if I'm honest. But the performance was improved overall. I thought that the front row and the set piece, particularly the scrum, was good to start with. It was a sucker punch losing Elliot D so quickly in the first half, and then Jared Rosser thereafter. I thought for once we had some go forward ball when we did have ball, and attack looked like it had a little bit of shape in it as well. Unfortunately, the notes that I've got here is that our defence was poor, and I thought that's where we really come unstuck. I thought the line speed was led from the inside. Young Westy at 13 had a torrid day at the office. I think if you look at their back line, and they've got their line up in front of me here, out at 13, the likes of McCloskey in at 12, Human in at 13, Ward and Stockdale, sort of 11, 12, 13, 14, all massive men. Sort of all 6 foot pluses, all 100 kilos, all running at pace.
Doak as well, and that was it. One Flannery. Well, no, it was Jake Flannery. He was 10 as well. They're big lads as well. So
Yeah, and Mike Lowry, they had the dancing Mike Lowry, who I thought was good out in the wide channels. It was clear to me that Ulster came to play in those wide channels. They probably identified early that our line speed wasn't great out wide. And for the life of me, I don't know why we're insistent on playing like a soft D, where we sort of let the inside lead the line speed, which creates an instant dog leg, allows a pod of forwards to play out the back, and then it just gives the likes of Lowry and Stockdale and Hume on these occasions like a 1v1. And I thought we started really narrow from set piece, especially from I think it was the final try in the first half. Started with a flat four in D, really narrow, straight on the drift. They go out the back once, take it to the line, go out the back, and then it's a 1v1 or a 2v2. And young Joe Westwood was holding on to ankles at some point throughout the night. So they sort of identified that that's where our weak areas were, and sort of took it to us in those wide channels, and they reaped the rewards. On the whole, I thought it was a much improved performance from the Dragons of old. All right, the try from the very first sort of 13 seconds from Aaron Wainwright was a little bit lucky, I suppose, but you make your own luck. It was a good chase from the kickoff, and then we were first to react to it, so good on him. The try for Rosser in the corner I thought was well made. If you watch that, we had two good carries. Elliot D got himself injured in the build-up to that, but we doubled up on those collisions, doubled up the body weight, got over the gain line, and then it was a pinpoint kick through for Rosser to score. It was almost like a through ball in football, really, wasn't it? So that was really good. And I thought we got unlucky with Wyn Jones as well, whereby ref said he was short. I find it really hard to believe in the modern rugby that we've only got two camera angles and both seem to be from behind. Didn't have one from in front. The conspiracy theorist in me says if that was Ulster in that position, we'd have had.
Ulster preventing a bonus point try with some tricky camera angles? That would never happen. Especially not hiding when we're balls deliberately kicked out of someone's hands.
Well, come on now.
Never
Oh
forgive,
yeah,
never forget.
I remember that. No, and you're right to be aggrieved by that as well. And I thought the forward pass wasn't either. So
I could see that being called back out of the hands. It looked to me, I could see why it was called for, but I thought the ref would do what most refs do and let it play on and then go back to the TMO for it. And
I think what was
there.
particularly annoying, I think, just generally like being a neutral, was seeing that that was called for Dragons, but there were multiple instances where Ulster clearly had forward passes and nothing was called. So you can be definitely aggrieved by that one. I think it's fair if they were both being ref the same way on forward passes, but when they're not, it's
and I agree. And when you think, oh, actually, we got over the line or close to the line in Wyn Jones's case on at least four occasions with only 30-odd% possession and territory. In actual fact, I don't think that's too bad going from a Dragon side. So that must show that we are improved, especially in attack. And on another day, that's 4 tries. We don't win the game. I don't think we deserved to win the game, but we deserved something from it. Unfortunately, we've come away with nothing. On the player front as well, I thought Shane Lewis, who's turned up again, always does, very industrious. Aaron Wainwright was good at number 8. Keddy was industrious as well, but I wonder where the balance in that back row is right. If I'm honest, I wonder whether Thomas...
I did think it looked better when Matt came on. And I think it was Wainwright. I can't remember if it was Wainwright or Shane Lewis Hughes shifted to 7, but it did look...
Well, I thought we had a bit of a problem as well, slowing the ruck speed down. So I wonder whether someone like Thomas Young coming in there to offer that genuine open side threat, whereby they can get after the ball a little bit more. That may help the balance out. Going back to Mackenzie Martineau, I thought he was fantastic when he came on. A big, abrasive, physical, offered a real good level of physicality, as did Levi Douglas. I thought they both added to the pack when they came on, and we're probably not used to that, so we didn't lose anything. And I wonder where they both stuck their hands up for selection for the Sharks game. I know we'll discuss that later on, but and I was also impressed with Tinas de Beer as well. I thought when we did have the ball for the small periods that we did, he controlled the ball fairly well, and he absolutely levelled Mike Lowry. Every time I hear the name Mike Lowry, though, makes me think of Bad Boys. Mac Lowry. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether you've seen the film Bad Boys with Will Smith, but That's really great. So yeah, I on the whole, I thought it was an improved Dragons performance. We didn't go away this time last season. That could have been, well, not this time last season because we beat the Ospreys, but last season's Dragons would have folded, and that could have been 60. But yeah, it wasn't. And I wonder whether going into next week, if we can, we need to make a change in the centres. I would have thought if Paye is fit, for me, comes in just to marshal that. We've definitely got some frailties in defence that need to be sorted out. And then it was a little bit same old Dragons, whereby we were compounding penalty with another penalty. And where we work really hard for our scores, I don't think we make Ulster work that hard for it, because we'd go from an attacking line out in, say, their 22, concede a penalty, and two penalties later we're defending a line out in our 22. So we're not making them work for those entries. So a little bit same old, but enough for me to cling on to hope. As a matter of fact, I was fairly positive coming away from it. I thought it was improved, much improved on last season.
It, I thought there was quite a big drop off. I thought Wyn Jones, Rob Hunt went well.
Yeah,
Didn't think Martinez and Dylan Lewis did anything. And I totally agree with what you say about the centres. You were out muscled. I know Dragons fans, and I quite like him as well, like Aidan Owen, but I don't think he played very well either. I think both centres will have better games. Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the Leinster game last year, where after you beat the Ospreys, I think you went away to Leinster. I know you lost out in Dublin. You put up a decent performance there, but it's now, can they maintain it? And next week's game, which we'll talk about later, is absolutely key now. At the very least, have a very good performance and hopefully win.
yeah, I totally agree. And you think from a centre partnership perspective, when you're looking at what um, the Leinster's and Ulster's centres make up were physically compared to the Dragons. When I know Joe Westwood's, a fairly big lad, but he's not massive. He's still growing into his frame, I would have thought. He's only sort of, was he 20, 21 years of age. And an Iron Owen's not a big man, is he? He's sort of, really, he's the Dragons version of Ben Thomas, and he's a ball playing 12.
Yeah,
And I don't think that's necessary. I know you want your best players on the field as often as possible, but you need to think about winning games and putting best teams in. At the minute, it's a physicality thing, because we got run over a little bit in midfield at times. And ultimately, we lost the game out wide, didn't we? So,
yeah,
yeah, it's food for thought for the selection committee next week. But I would be looking to change up midfield a little bit. And I think you're right in terms of the front row. I don't know whether Martinez. For me, it was more Martinez than Dylan Lewis. I didn't think Martinez went so well. That's where the scrum penalty started to come. Then I think our loose head against their tight head, and unfortunately we had to bring Brodie Coughlin on early doors. So by the time Martinez and Dylan Lewis had come on, he'd already played for sort of 50 minutes, I suppose. So yeah, it's a little bit of bad luck there. Hopefully those injuries are not too bad, and we wish them a speedy recovery. Obviously, especially Elliot D, because he'd be in and around the Wales squad come autumn, I would have thought. But on the whole, if I was going to grade it, it's probably a C plus. I would have thought from the Dragons. There was enough there. If you look at and that last try right at the end was a bit of a kick in the cojones, wouldn't it? In that the game was already done and dusted, and they get over. But yeah, I thought it was improved from the Dragons. We stuck in there, hung in the fight, and depending on what the Sharks bring to Rodney Parade on that's Friday night again, I think, isn't it?
yeah, Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night again. Then I don't see why we can't pick up a result there.
I would like to give Dragons one benefit of the doubt with their defence, and that is they've got a brand new. Well, they've actually got a defence coach now, because they basically only had. So it does take some time to get in. I agree with what you're saying. They need to sort it out, but I think that stuff will come, and I think giving them a couple of weeks will at least give them time.
Yeah, but I think it's a basic principle. I don't know what you think, that you can't lead your line speed from the inside, because if you lead line speed from the inside and you're narrow, by the time they pull out the back like they did, then it gives you effectively a multitude of 1v1 scenarios. And because we're so narrow, we can't push up, we've got to drift out. So you're giving up meterage after meterage, and at least they're always running at a weak shoulder. At least we need to start wider, and our line speed needs to be brought in and dictated to by the back line. And that's why your 13 is really important, because your 13 should dictate the line speed. You may have your winger at halves just so you can manage the kick, depending on where you're playing in the backfield. So it needs for me, the line speed needs to be led from the outside in. We sort of, if it was, again, what do I know? But if it was me and it was my defence, I'd be wanting to umbrella them back into our strength. So you've got the likes of Stockdale and Hume running into Shane Lewis-Hughes, Mackenzie Martin, Levi Douglas, whoever it may be, rather than an Iron Owen and Mr. Westwood on a 1v1 on a drift when they're catching the ball at speed and we're effectively running towards the touchline.
That's it. And I could be point and counterpoint about this, but we do that enough on the WhatsApp. So let's move on to the second game of the weekend, going to early on Saturday afternoon. So Ospreys went away to Pretoria, where the Bulls won 53-40. What was a game that most defence coaches would cry at, but I kind of liked it. Nick, do you want to go lead us through this one?
Yeah, I think the biggest disappointment for me was I got my prediction wrong, with Keelan Giles scoring right at the end and then Dan Edwards converting. That's my biggest disappointment. In all seriousness, I was very proud of the Ospreys performance, and as you say, to go to Pretoria and score 6 tries at altitude was pretty much, and good tries as well, which was great. I think our lack of preparation perhaps didn't help, and I think Mark Jones in his post-match interview alluded to it a little bit as well. I know pre-season games are, you can in some ways you can look at it two ways, a double-edged sword. However, things like our line-out creaked a bit, and also our scrum definitely did. Gavin Phillips will have better days at the office, and lo and behold, you go to South Africa, and South African teams, especially the Bulls, have got a big scrum. So that put a lot of pressure on us, even when we got ahead, when we knew the Bulls were going to come back into the game, but they were able to creep up the field. A couple of penalty scrum, line-outs, penalty, and the next thing you know, you're defending in your 22, deep into your 22, against a very direct and physical team. And there was an inevitability when they were, 5-yard line-outs or pick and going from 2 or 3 yards for them scoring. So there's things that certainly can improve on. Tips will hopefully have a busy week with them this week, and certainly cutting down on penalties would be important. On the positive side, I thought we did move the ball really well. I thought Kesendi was good, certainly into the high ball and when he had opportunities. I thought Giles had a really good game. I thought Keane Williams was excellent. I thought Dewi led well, turning some ball over. Deves was superb. Sometimes the right side of the law, sometimes not always. But, he was in it, and the try he set off with the run down the wing and the handoff and the pass inside was superb. Morgan Morse played well, and he showed some of the special things he offers at 8. And what I think he is improving is he's not getting penalised. He's making better decisions around the breakdown. You can see him sometimes, shall I go in? And then he's just holding back a little bit more. And I think that's showing a little bit more maturity. He tidied up from the back of the scrum on a number of occasions, and cleaned it up. And I thought his try was well taken as well. Quite impressive too with Jack Walsh when he comes into the game. We look a very dangerous game. We seem to have 2 playmakers, and that's definitely a development since Mark Jones has taken over. And you could see that Mark Jones, and we'll see more obviously next week, has had a full season. And a player I've been unsure about, is brought in, I think, by Toby, was Phil Hokasinga. And I thought he had his best ever game for us. I'm not quite sure why he was taken off so soon. Perhaps it's just lack of game time. But he had a good game. So all in all, I didn't have us down for a point. As I said, I thought we would lose by 20 points-ish, which wasn't that far off. But I didn't think we'd get a point. So we were almost disappointed not to come away with 2 points. So, yeah, absolutely a good start for us. Lots of things to improve on, but overall, something to work on.
Yeah, see, my subtle theory is Mark Jones heard Dan from Cardiff Rugby Life in the Cardiff pod mentioning how Tom Florence has been underused by the Ospreys, and maybe we should get him in as 13 cover, and thought, great, I'll get him playing.
Yeah, we haven't got many. Oh,
sorry, Nick. No, I was just going to say, I wondered what you thought of, the balance in your back row. You mentioned them briefly there. I thought, for me, that sort of balance is almost perfect. Deeves, who's more of a traditional seven. Moriarty started at 6, I believe, old school, uncompromising. Wouldn't be, would be at home playing in the 80s, running around kicking people at rucks, wouldn't he? Moriarty, uncompromising, tough, hard, and Morse at number 8, athletic, rangy, good hands, powerful. And I thought it suited that track out at altitude as well. And I thought they did really well.
No, I thought Moriarty was very promising. He was obviously, we're using him in that in the Tipuric role front of the line. So I thought he had a good game, really solid. And then with Ratty coming on at the end as well, could offer that same type of physicality at 6, which I like in a back row. I'm not, for me, I like quite a physical 6. So yeah, and as we've alluded to before, I don't think our physicality of the Ospreys is any different than it was perhaps last year. And if anything, you could say it's enhanced by having Moriarty coming in and offering that at 6. So yeah, a promising start, but we need to back it up now with another performance next week.
I think for me as well, what it did show from when I caught up on the game was the strength in depth in South African rugby. To have big men and big forward packs is just unrivaled, because I think the one lad who played in the second row for them was out of their development squad this year, I think, due to the amount of injuries slash internationals they've got away. He's been brought back in. I thought he was fantastic. Massive men. And you give them a sniff of being able to kick their way up the field, penalty after penalty, and if once they're in that red zone, you've had it. That's and they win scrum penalties, and effectively it takes very little effort and energy for them to go from their 22 to your 22, and once they're in there, it's game on. And I noticed this more and more from teams, especially in Ireland and South Africa. Once they come in, once they get into the 22, and especially when they're in around the 5 metre line, is really uncompromising. It's pick and go. They try and narrow the defence up. It's one up. It's off 9. They're not even using 9 to service the ball. They're using the first forward in there to speed it up even more. They're doubling up on collisions, and listening to it on like ref mics, etc. It's just brutal in there. Absolutely brutal. And I don't know, again, from a defence coach's perspective, how do you stop big men from that far out running hard and fast onto the ball? It's almost impossible.
I think you said it there, though, Dan. I mean, it's virtually impossible. So you've got to stop them getting that close. And so that's why having your fundamentals, your line out, and your scrum are absolutely key. If you're going to compete and really push these teams, you have to have that, because once they start to creak a little bit, it's game over.
Yeah,
I'd like to point out Gwalia Lightning have got the perfect tactic for that, which is they've seriously, Gwalia, one of the best teams I've seen doing it. Right, it hasn't always translated in wins, but you just have to soak up the thing, go for the goal line dropout, and hope that you can get under the ball. But it's not foolproof, and it's almost counterintuitive to what you get taught as doing defence.
They honestly were doing it like sometimes 5, 6, 7 times a game. Like they were just so good at it. But I think it's potentially more of a commonality in women's rugby. You saw it when teams play against like Canada, for example, who are a very, very physical team, probably one of the most physical along with England. So yeah, but it is fascinating to watch teams like Gwalia do it.
It's interesting tactic again. Maybe it is one, but you're almost, because I was thinking about this watching the Dragons. When Ulster got in, you may go 10 phases where you're able to defend it, but it's inevitably it's the score is coming. They just creep closer and closer. It's penalty after penalty for offsides or hands in the ruck or no arms or whatever it may be. And I'm thinking, you're almost once in, you're almost well off just letting them score. Just dot the ball down, get back, and we'll start again from down in your half because
Yeah,
it's energy sapping trying to defend it.
I was
Almost,
saying that. I was saying that watching it, and the same when sometimes when you've had a couple of penalties from lineouts, you're almost better at letting the other team, because the worst case scenario is you're going to have a penalty try and somebody off, yellow carded. So let them score and keep 15 on the pitch.
yeah.
Yeah,
What
try
they
and keep
tend
them
to
in the
do as
corner.
well is and exactly keep them in the corner because otherwise the pick and go is infield, pick and go, pick and go, pick and go. They're getting closer and closer to the posts.
Yeah.
And it's 7 points instead of it being five. I know it's counterintuitive to do it, but you're just watching it thinking,
Yeah.
there's no way we're keeping them out here. Even
No.
if it's in 10 phases, 15 phases, someone's going to score at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting to see how that'll develop over the summer because I thought the ferociousness of that close line attack, that pick and go effort was just relentless from some teams, particularly the South Africans and the Irish.
Yeah.
All right. Has anyone else got anything more to say about Bulls Ospreys? Or shall we move on
Oh,
to the next game on the dock, which is
fantastic game of rugby and good on him for picking up a bonus point.
Thank you, Dan.
absolutely. And then the next game on the dock is Scarlets hosting Munster, where they unfortunately lost 21-34. So, Hattie, did you actually get to watch this game? As whilst it was live, you were
I was at Twickenham.
you were at the
watching-
final.
I was at the World Cup
not-
final. So I didn't get to watch it live. So I watched it back earlier today, actually. Unfortunately, I was doing something else. Can't say which one was more important, but World Cup final, opening game of the URC. Tricky decision. But yeah, I watched it back earlier. Uh, it's just really frustrating. As a Scarlets fan, obviously, just before kick-off, we lost Sam Lassie and Kemsley. They pulled out just before the game. That's disappointing. And when I look back at the game, I just felt like our forwards, especially in like the second half, were just a bit. Even though we conceded more in the first half, in the second half they were just a bit lackadaisical. Lackadaisical, is that word? Lackadaisical.
Lackadaisical.
There we go. Harley had me. They were just very passive. There wasn't a lot of oomph. I think I'm really excited to see Jake Ball and Sam Lassie together in the second row. That was something I was looking forward to before the game, and obviously not having that was a bit disappointing. I would say that the Jake Ball that we've got this time around is somewhat different to the Jake Ball we had the first time around. He's lost a fair amount of weight. So whilst we were used to him being a bit of a ballast, he's lost a bit of that. But he's still very much, a tight headlock, very big, very powerful, maybe just slightly more mobile than he was before. I think Tame Plumtrie's try will go down as one of my favourite tries of the season, and it's 1 week in, but that's just coming from a former back rower. Anytime a back rower does something they shouldn't do like that, I just love it. The interception, we shouldn't be doing that. The actual run, sensational. So, yeah. I mean, it was also quite good to see Joe Hawkins have a run out at 10 for about 10 minutes. I think it was something a bit different, and it was definitely interesting. But yeah, it was just a bit like the second half was just disappointing because it was so passive. And I think if we'd had a bit more oomph, we could have got that bonus point try in.
I think, as we alluded to when we did the review, I think you will regret losing Fifita. I know he would have been somebody who could have offered that. And I think whatever the reasons for you letting him go mid-contract, I don't think it was a good move.
No, I don't either. I don't think there's probably a single Scarlets fan that would say that it was a good move at all. Very disappointing. He was missed. Sam Massey was missed. Obviously, he pulled out just before. Um, it just wasn't. We weren't physical enough.
No,
I think the back line, I don't think was bad. It was the forwards, in my opinion.
100%.
Yeah.
I thought they won the physical confrontation, but that was personified really when Gleeson broke off the back of the scrum and fended McLeod and sort of helped himself down the 10 channel like an old school number 8. You don't see that so often these days. I thought defensively they read the Scarlets really well. Loads of pressure. And they offered something that the Welsh regions generally haven't done. Is loads of line pressure and physicality in defence. I thought the Scarlets were happy to run a softie as well and let teams get an edge. And once you go edge to edge, it starts stretching you. So like, I don't understand the process behind that. You have to get into that collision zone straight off the line in defence. You've got to kill the first 5 metres. It's a race for the space. Get in there, challenge their skill set, but I don't think we've done that enough. Or the Scarlets did that enough. It was interesting. I thought they started JJ Hanrahan at 10. And I think Munster have got much more depth in there than we thought that they may have. Gleeson being a prime example, who'd have thought that he would have started over Coombs. And then the difference being is you got Coombs coming off the bench, and we know how good he was last season. And you start JJ Hanrahan, you bring Crowley off the bench. So Munster had plenty to go there, but I think it's probably one that the Scarlets will rue not getting anything from, with this, especially with it being a home fixture. Maybe one that's gone begging so early on in the season. The game was sort of done early doors as well, wouldn't it? Took 21-0 down or something along those lines.
Yes,
Another physical midfield as well.
Yeah.
In Nankervell and Dan Kelly.
What I hadn't realised is the players had done the walk as well. They were tired after the match.
Very, very cynical of you there, Nick. Come on.
Yeah, speaking of the march, it's nice to see the Scarlets fans out in support of the region.
And former players as well. So, yeah, that was nice to see. Just a frustrating game. I think I look back at the stats as well, and it's like, well, we conceded less penalties, but they managed to get 2 penalty kicks in. So it's about where we're conceding as well. It's just frustrating game all around. And depth as well, as you say. Munster had depth that we say we didn't expect. We should have expected. It's probably the second best of the Irish provinces. We should expect them to have some depth. And I felt that the Scarlets just didn't. I think, when our subs came on, there was a noticeable difference, and it was just not good enough, in my opinion.
I think when you play, it's almost, again, a double-edged sword. When you have your first game at home and you lose, it puts a lot of pressure on the second game. You can go away, and even if you get nothing, at least you've got something to come. Well, we're home next week, so it's a lot of pressure on the Scarlets now next week in Connacht.
Yeah, everyone loves going away to Ireland.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard.
I think there should be a special mention though for in terms of the Scarlets for Harry Thomas.
Yeah, 20-0.
Yeah, who started at hooker. From what I've seen, I thought he went very well. I know he had a shout out from the head coach as well. So, good on Harry Thomas for plugging that gap. He looks as tough as teak does young Harry. So hopefully he's got he gets more opportunity now off the back of this as well, because ultimately he's got to play rugby. And hopefully he's got a good a long career in front of him.
Yeah,
I think he's probably one of my favourites in our sort of like academy crew, and I think probably his last year in the academy, hopefully, before he moves up fully. I can think we're going to see a lot of him this year.
Let's hope Scarlets keep hold of him and don't do the typical Scarlets thing of farming him off to the Championship and then have to buy him back a lot more on a much higher salary than necessary.
Or deciding we don't need him and he goes off to the Ospreys.
Yeah. Speaking of Scarlets and Ospreys in Bowden 4, I did think Tristan Davis looked pretty good at 6.
He did.
I thought he looked pretty solid.
Yeah, I think our back row balance is just a bit off. I think part of that is maybe having Plumtree at 8. Personally, I don't love him at 8. I would rather have him at 6. Um, I just don't think he's lanky, but he's not chunky enough for an 8 in my opinion. But yeah, I did really like Tristan at 6. It was a good move.
And this is where I think the Scarlets are gonna struggle to plug that gap uh, this season, big time.
Mm.
I was going to say, 'cause who really could you put in at 6? Otherwise, I mean, even if you moved Plumtree to 6, then who would you have at 8? It's
Yeah, that's it. It's like I think they've put Plumtree in at 8 because he's maybe the most similar to Fafita, but nobody is similar to him at all. Um, we can't produce that. Um, but
Ah,
he's just a bit. I love him. He reminds me of Marley from the film Marley and Me, obviously before the dog passed away. Um, because he's just like a bit naughty, but just lovable. Um, but he's a 6 in my opinion, not an 8.
I suppose the other option you've got is when Lousy is fit, and hopefully will be next week, is Douglas going to 6? Played there a bit last year, I believe.
Yeah, but we have
maybe him or
so few
possibly
options
Taylor.
in the second row
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
do that we kind of need. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, we can move one of our second rows to 6, but then we lose the second row and we don't really have a lot of them.
As we mentioned last week, Toy Blotton was allowed to go as well, so you've lost that ballast as well. We're two big ball carriers now that have got away, and I think,
Free with Craig as
based,
well.
yeah,
It's just not.
absolutely, and I think this season that's going to be problematic for you, especially when the likes of Plumtree, McLeod, et al. Are going to be away with Wales as well.
And I think as well that uh, obviously Jake Ball hadn't played a lot of rugby in the last like year, 2 years beforehand. I think potentially coaches were maybe thinking it was the Jake Ball that left. But he, as I said, he's slimmed down considerably. He's not the player that he was, and he's older. So we've received a very different player to the one that we let go.
I think you've always got to be wary of having a player back after you've had him. So I mean, same with coaches as well, like saying Cardiff and stuff from in the past. And I think that's covered Scarlets, Munsters, not really. Two of the night, I will agree with uh, our friend over on the global game line of Hugh Griffin. That it was a clash of two very nice kits. I did quite like them both.
It was.
Um,
Oh, note on the kit. Scarlets we've gone woke, and I love it, but I don't like the execution. We've now got names on the back of our jerseys, but because we've got so many sponsors on the
You
back,
can't tell.
you can't
it's
tell
very
name.
small. But I do like a name on the back of a jersey, I must say. So
So I'm going to go from one of the nicest, so from some of the nicest kits in the URC to one of the worst in the URC,
Oh.
because what on earth was that Lions away kit? Just
Awful.
it was an assault. I normally like bright, vibrant, multi patterns like Zebra do it really well, but that was awful. Anyway, so we're closing out the round one with Cardiff versus Lions at Cap, where we won 33-20, including a red card to Ben Thomas. Which I think by that point was the third 20-minute red card second red card and the third bunker review that we've had with the URC's new bunker review thing. I see where both sides come from this. I personally probably have lent on just keeping it as a yellow, but Dan I know is very strongly against that, and I get why. And to be perfectly honest, I probably would have I'd say the same if I wasn't a Cardiff fan.
I just think it
But
was
all
the
in
fact he chicken winged the arm. If the arm wasn't tucked and he didn't lead with the elbow, then
if that
I'd
hands out a
agree.
bit more, I can see where more of the arguments was because I wouldn't have said he was necessarily always illegal. I think for once it was not a good height as well when
Yeah.
we normally see
Well,
these ones.
there are two factors on
And
this
maybe
as
when you
well for discussion now. Maybe or after you've done your roundup of the game. But it was a side entry by him, by the Lions player. So he shouldn't have been there anyway. Maybe he deserved a bit of old school rugby justice for that. But I thought the play acting afterwards was a little bit over the top. The way he should have been some sort of sanction for that, whereby he's gone rolling around grabbing his face, because whilst it was foul play, he did lead with his elbow. Come on, mate, this wasn't that bad, was it?
I think if you look, the initial contact is almost shoulder to shoulder first, and then it comes up.
He's milked it big time.
Apparently, the noise on the terraces was even the South Africa Lions fans were booing him for that one.
And this is where, like, if I was the Cardiff captain, I'd go, look, he's clearly in a lot of pain. How come he's not going off for HIA?
Yeah, exactly.
He has surely his player safety.
Get their other 9 on.
Yeah, you've said
the young 9 on.
Direct dead contact. Fair enough. Yeah, Ben's got to go, but surely he's got to go now to be checked over by the doctor.
I also just posit this. Do you think because it was a 20-minute red rather than now that's an option? Do you think that maybe last year, if we'd had the bunker review, but it was just full red or yellow, it maybe would have gone to yellow instead of red?
I do think it's becomes a lot easier for that sort of thing. One thing, so in this game, similar to the Dragons game, Hooker goes down quite early. Liam Belcher takes a bang, and Evan Lloyd, who comes on and has actually a really good game.
Very good game.
I wouldn't say flawless, like there's still some line-out issues, but 2 tries, including one off the maul where he catches the Lions blindside defence snapping. He just nips into the corner. The Lee Halfpenny effect is fully in force because Sheedy made 4 out of 5 kicks, and that's all. That kicking game, most of the things. I mean, the one thing that annoyed me was the amount of penalty. Discipline was awful. A lot of it was on the floor with possession. Despite the fact last year we worked out that Lions love trying to nick the ball off you. So if you kick it to them, they don't really show much. And actually, as soon as after that sort of 20-minute great red period, the Lions' attack got quite blunted. And as soon as their tight head, whose name I need to see, Tablet Kanye. I always think Nikane like Trevor, but obviously it's a bit extra. I do apologise for my absolute butchering of it. I think it's one of those ones I'm going to have to get done in phonetics next time I have to say it.
We're going to have to get
I think
Lisa.
When he came off, it was off.
Lisa from a bit of an animal.
Back channels, Lisa from Bit of an Animal, also on the back channels of the Women's Rugby Treehouse feed and South African Women News.
She is.
He's been
Big
capped a couple of times, hasn't he, by South Africa, I believe.
Yeah.
Throughout the summer international break. But he looks like they've dragged him off a park somewhere, don't they? Like a local park, and he's playing on permit.
He's my favourite of top-end tight heads.
He looks like a proper old school community type.
But he's failed the drug test as well, hasn't he?
It said so. He's currently playing because he can't get a hearing until December.
I should laugh, but there's no way he's taking performance enhancing drugs. There's no way he's taking
slimming.
Oh, come on, that's me.
He's on his Ozempic and it's controlled.
Is this true? This is news to me. This is. Oh, there's no way.
He's currently on he's failed a drugs test, but he's allowed to play until his hearing in December because that was the earliest date they could get a hearing for it.
Well, what's he tested positive for? Like, I don't know, 20 pints of Strongbow after every game.
that I don't know.
It's just class because I look at him, and when he comes onto the field, I'm looking at him going, "There's no way he's playing pro rugby." This was last season.
And Big Ben Tamifuna. They are 2 players who they look like they shouldn't be pro rugby players. Yeah, are really good.
It's class. He's got the proper old school drum and everything is fantastic. And then he goes out there. His hands are fantastic. He plays at that speed for 50, 60 minutes, and he locks the scrum out as well. But there's no way. I'm going to have to find that article after this that he's been done for drugs. I have to say, though,
unfortunately for him, my favourite moment for him is the equivalent fixture last season when Johan Mulder absolutely nails him. Having been the bigger guy, have the little guy nail you. You do not feel you want to pull fake an injury after that one.
He's just a little bit off balance. So if you get him in the right spot, he just goes down. It's beautiful.
This has made my season already. This has. I didn't.
But also, what other league would this happen in that somebody fails a drug test so they're allowed to carry on playing?
I don't know. I reckon Pro D.
Oh no, the French
I
are
reckon there's
quite
been issues
strict.
with Pro D players of passed
Recreational.
drug test. Recreational, definitely the word.
Anyway, how
Yeah.
did the attack look? How did the attack look? Bringing it back
I
to
thought
rugby.
overall the attack looked really good. It unlike last season whenever we didn't have Ben Thomas on the field, the attack started to disintegrate. It actually looked pretty good, and I think when Beaton finally came on to replace him after the 20-minute red, he added some proper impact. You know, and it gave us a little bit more power at 12, and you know, probably a little bit more balance than we've been looking at. Just good to see him out on the park and going through the time unscathed. I thought Tane Basham hasn't completely changed my mind on him, but you know, we were talking in the previous pods about how all the Welsh sides need players who can get over the game line. Tane is adding that in spades, and I'm loving it. He's still prone to a dopey moment, but he's a lot better than he was a year or two ago.
Mm.
And I think that's all you can ask for. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a lovable Labrador if you learn when to rein it in. I said I thought our back rows looked quite good. Both, so you know, when Tane went off and we had Dan Thomas added what he's excellent at, which is just hitting people, and especially when we paired that up with Ben Donald as well. So we almost went into shutdown mode once we got a 33-20, and it looked comfortable, which is something that I've not always been able to say about Cardiff sides. I know you've got to balance this against Lions, and I have said basically as soon as Takania goes off, and if you can stop them making merry with turnover ball, they do look quite blunt. I think when we go to Munster this weekend, it's going to be a much sterner test, and I think Harry Millar's going to have a lot more of a tough time defending the 13 channel. But unfortunately, he is who we've got. But I said, I mean, the attack's looking slicker, and I thought Yohan Lloyd, when he came on for minutes, added a bit of it, but I don't think there was enough time really to see the full remit of his game and how he's going to work in Cardiff. I
thought you'd have won quite comfortably, even if it's just been a yellow card. I think the fact he had 14 for 20 minutes, I think obviously had impact. It was bound to. I think you were the better team, and without doubt.
Yeah.
I thought the scores, some of them were fantastic. You know, speed of ruck, playing out the back, bringing those runners on. It looked like a jockey. You know, if Wales attack like that, we can get a little bit of go forward, and Wales can attack like that. Then with Quids in, it's just a case of whether Cardiff can maintain that without it being coached day in, day out, where they can keep on top of that detail, because it was clear that they put a lot of work in. I thought honourable mention to Mr. Lawrence at number 8. He was outstanding.
Solid player.
Real solid player, yeah, absolutely. Teddy Williams in the second row was good.
Excellent.
Again, though, unfortunately, with a lot of these, you know, with a lot of the Welsh teams at the moment, it comes down to depth, doesn't it? Because I think everyone on the pod here would say, look, if we can put our best sort of 23 or have our best 28 players fit for the bulk of the season, we're in with a good chance. As soon as those injuries start to come, the drop off then is night and day sometimes.
Yeah, I said because obviously McNally and Teddy did an 80-minute shift because they decided that man needed, they wanted to bring Donald on to add some heft in the last sections of the game. I don't know how many games, it's a long all season, and this block of 5, if you're having Teddy and McNally doing that too regularly, by the time, plus autumn internationals, by the time you get to the Europe and the festive derbies.
How far off is Faletau then?
I don't know. I mean, there seems to be, the running opinion is that we were saving him for this, he's pretty much ready to go, but they're saving him for this week just to be sure. And so one of the things Cardiff have been doing lately, which I'm quite happy, is they're erring on the side of caution with players. So if it's 50-50 where they'll play, they tend to go on, we'll leave you till next week.
So
I'm hoping.
So next week then, when they go to Munster, what do you do? You drop out Alex Mann, pull Lawrence to 6 and bring Faletau in at 8.
Yeah, and then I'd probably go with that, and then I'd probably go back to the 6-2, just because I think we are running out of fit backs. So Ben Thomas isn't going to be there, so I'd probably start Beetham.
Yeah, I thought he was
keep
good.
Lloyd on.
Yeah, I like Beetham.
Because then Beetham's got your 13 cup. He's probably the best. He's the least worst option we've got for covering 13, and has done a fair few games there.
Big lad as well.
And then I'd probably have Dan Thomas and Alex Mann on the bench with Prop.
You struggle with
I'll try to get George Knott or Thornton on there.
Struggle with lock cover then, don't you?
Yeah, that's Ben Don. Yeah, you've got Ben Donnell with that, so maybe Mann drops out. Yes. I mean, Mann is a serviceable 7 cover. It depends on how much we're targeting Munster, which I think is a game we should be targeting 2 points from. I don't think we'll go.
Oh, I think if you go away to Munster and pick up 2 points, 7 from 10, that's a real solid start to the year.
I said for me, I think for us, if we can get home, because near enough every single one of our home games are eminently winnable. Especially, it's a bit Leinster we've got in the middle of the Six Nations. So, but I think so. Anyway, that's our review of the game. Unless anyone else has any more comments, queries about Cardiff. So,
no, sorry, Harley. No, I was just going to say that I thought it was telling at the one stat meters made. Cardiff compared to the Dragons and the Scarlets. And the Ospreys compared to the opposition. Cardiff won that battle. And it's obvious, I know it sounds like a real obvious thing, but you win more meterage, you go and win the game. The game, that's all about winning that gain line. Because if you win the gain line somewhere, even if it's in those close quarter battles, it gives you the opportunity to throw the ball wide and find yourself an edge. So I was impressed with Cardiff on the weekend, as much as it pains me to say. I thought it was a good outing.
I do think as well we didn't fall into the trap of trying to keep the ball too much. I know we did turn over the ball quite cheaply sometimes, but we also were quite clever with our kicking and trying to find space. Particularly Cap is because the way that the 4G pitches there, the ball bounces very unpredictably, even for a rugby ball, which if you're used to playing it week in, week out, you can sort of guess what it's going to do.
Well, does that
good?
Go the props there has to go to your new kicking strategy coach, doesn't it?
Yeah, Cardiff. Yeah, pride of Cardiff. He was never anywhere else. I think he went to Toulon for a sabbatical, but then it gets a bit hazy either side of that. And it's definitely not the reason why my wife is a Scarlets fan. Oh heck, even the reason why the aforementioned Hugh is a Scarlets fan. Anyway, if you've been enjoying our ramblings so far, please give us a like, a subscribe, share the audio version with your friends. We're currently on 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're now pushing for 2,500. So again, start giving week nudge. Also, please leave some comments and that kind of reviews. Whenever we come across them, we'll happy to read out the pod. If you've got any suggestions, we'll quite happily have a listen. If there are any things you'd like us to focus a bit more on. Would you like more guests like the one for Bread and Breakspear? Again, let us know and we will try and do our best to see what happens. Anyway, now that's the shameless plug-in over and done with. We move on to round 2 of the URC. I don't know where Six Nations came into my head. I think I'm already thinking of Wales squads. So, starting up, we have the Ospreys. So, Nick, you are away to the Stormers.
Mm-hmm.
Would you care to kick us?
Yeah, obviously, I think probably the surprise result of the weekend was a comprehensive win for Stormers at home to Leinster. Not a bad Leinster team at all. Quite a few Irish internationals in that team, and to nil them is quite an achievement. So it's quite a task. They've still got a lot of good players. I think their back row play went very well on Saturday. They play Saturday. Stormers, Leinster. Anyway, but so that's something we're going to have to face up, and then it's just what we were talking about before with regards to the Ospreys. They definitely need to have a better percentage from the line out. They need to stop giving away penalties in the scrum. So I'm hoping Gareth Thomas coming in there. He is out there. I would hope they haven't taken him just to take the views in and have a bit of extra sunshine. So I hope he come in on Saturday. He will make a big difference, and it should be another exciting game. Both teams have got good attacks now, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've got nothing more to add on that one. I said I think the Ospreys that just go and see if you can get another couple of points. I mean, South Africa's always hard and kicked out, and if Stormers are in a mood, they're in a mood. So you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, I think the same as you guys, really. If you go and pick up a point or two away from home, then good on you. Although I would be a little bit worried. I haven't seen what they did to Leinster on Friday night, because that was brutal at times. Was it 35-0?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go and see. At least we can all say that if we stop the league now, we finish above Leinster.
It's honestly the greatest thing I've ever seen to just see them sitting right at the bottom.
Oh
Yeah,
no! Here's all the Leinster fans in the comments. We thought we shipped them off to the game line. Is that bloody Caelan? So that game is at 8 o'clock, 6 o'clock on Friday. At 8:05, in the very weird time, is Dragons hosting the Sharks up at Dave Parade. It was Dragons very lucky not to win this fixture last year. Dan, do you think they can actually get over the line this year?
Yeah, we lost by 3 last, didn't we? 33-30, I think, and it was one that got away. It's the start of what is, for me, I think it's a big month for the men of Gwent, in that 3 out of the 4 fixtures in October at home. And, for me, I think we need to win the 3, really. At least 2 of them to say it's been a success and to see that there's been some change. The screaming clarity that we need to change something in midfield. We definitely need to mix up our midfield combination, because we cannot allow a team that's going to be as physical as the Sharks are. We know they're not going to be fully loaded due to the international duties, but we need to make sure that we shut any sort of massive midfield threat down. We need to match fire for fire there. So I would be bringing Payer in if he's fit, and making some changes there. And then I don't know whether I'd make some changes in the pack as well. Front row would stay the same for me. Coughlin's probably going to start, I would have thought, based on the fact that D's out. But Levi Douglas went well. We haven't seen Seb Davis yet. We haven't had an update on that. I may just go big to start with. I know Levi Douglas is useful off the bench and stuff like that, but do we try and put their fire out early? That would be my theory behind that. Let's get after them, put their fire out early, rather than having to be chasing the game, or them being, still in the game with sort of 20 minutes to go. So maybe there'd be some changes coming in for me. Is Funaki fit enough to start, give us that sort of South Sea Island physicality in the back row? Douglas did well, Mackenzie Martin, but we're in a good position now, aren't we? We're having these selection debates, and who knows what the right answer is. So I think it'll be more competitive again from the Dragons on the weekend, especially at home. And I suppose time will tell then on how good that result was, but out in Ulster ultimately, when we see how they go over the next couple of weeks as well. So yeah, fingers crossed that we can pick up a win on the weekend. I'd like 4 points, if I'm honest. I think it's too early to say a must win, but we need to win at least 2 out of the 4 games for me in October, and I can't see us going to Glasgow and winning at Scotstoun.
Or beating Cardiff.
Yeah, I think as well, I'd like to see Hugh Anderson get a start. He's got that X factor for me. So I would give him a start as well. He offers something that is there are times where he's undefendable. So I'd give him a go from the start as well. Where? I don't know. I think he's more use at full back than he is on the wing, personally. But
this is going to be my question, because obviously you've got Angus O'Brien, who's co-captain, which doesn't mean he has to start, but he is quite pivotal in that dual play. You do have the option of a dual playmaker, but do you necessarily need that if you've got an Owen Owen at 12?
yeah, it's a good question. You want as many leads as you can on the field, and this is where Philo's got to earn his crust this week and get a selection right. But ultimately, it's when we haven't got the ball that needs most attention this week in Ystrad. So hopefully that's being dealt with.
Excellent stuff. So then we move on to Saturday, 1:45. Scarlets are away to Connacht. So if any Scarlets fans are travelling, don't bother with umbrellas; they'll go missing instantly, I believe.
Yep.
So Hattie, what do you feel like? So this is going to be Scarlett's first trip to the new and improved Dexcom. How are we feeling?
It's a strange one. I'm weirdly happy that it's an earlier kickoff. I think that could maybe potentially help with the weather situation. I think playing out in Galway when it's sort of early evening, into the evening is horrendous. So I'm glad it's slightly earlier in the day. It's a really tricky one. I think my answer would have been very different if the result against Munster had been different. It's tricky. I'm really hoping for a win. I think if we're playing a Connacht side that is missing Bundy and Finlay Beelum,
Probably.
and Matt, well, yeah, then I'm pretty happy. I think it could potentially be a bit closer than I'd like. But I think with our backline especially, I think we'd be all right. What I'd like to see next weekend is one, cut down on the penalties in areas where it matters, and two, make the most of Connacht's penalties, and taking some kicks at goal, because that ended up killing us last week. So yeah, I think it really depends on the teams who's coming out. I think if it's a Connacht side without their Lions, then I'm pretty happy. If it's not, then I am kind of dreading it, to be honest. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Then Dan, have you got anything to say, or you?
Just
So
looking
you
at their
looked you're
stats.
about to.
Yeah, just looking at their stats from the weekend where they managed to roll over a good Benetton team. So, I think it may be unfortunately the Scarlet. I hope I'm wrong, but because I'm all for Welsh teams winning when they play in, you know, not sort of non-Welsh teams. I think it may be a little stretch too far though, going out to Galway and trying to pick up. I think it might be a case of going over there and seeing if you can pick up 2 bonus points rather than trying to pick up the win.
I think it really depends how. I think it depends on the weather, to be honest, is the big one. I think if it's wet, we're a bit screwed. But I think if it's relatively dry, then it's a bit more open for us.
Maybe, you talk about the Scarlets backline. Benetton took Jacob Umaga, Ratave, Fekitoa, Menoncello, Louis Liner, and still managed to shut it down, fairly comfortably on the weekend. So I don't know, I hope I'm wrong, but maybe it's again just it was the game was to win was this last weekend, I think, for the Scarlets rather than going out to Galway, and that's the difficulty now. You're looking and going, well, we could do a winning here, whereas the chance are you're probably going to back it up with another defeat. I hope I'm wrong. Really hope I'm wrong.
And then it's facing triple South African teams there. So Stormers at home, and then
Nice.
what was it? Lions and Bulls away. Oh, Lions and Sharks away.
Yeah.
Which,
I'm hoping we're just going to put a Scarlets where we're terrible in the first half of the season and then somehow pull it out the bag in the second. And we're only one game in, so I'm being really positive.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing I said with the point of not having the Island and Lions stars is Connacht playing an awful lot without their Island and Lion stars. So if anything, there's probably a more cohesive team. However, not having Bundy coming off the bench at you is always a helpful thing.
I mean, Bundy on Sam Costello is just a horror show
I
waiting to
believe that's
happen.
technically a war crime.
I can see it happening, and poor little Sam. It's just not fair. We'd have to play Hawkins at 10 because Sammy's too small.
So moving on so we're staying in Ireland then for the final game of the weekend. That is Cardiff going away to Thomond Park to play Munster. That's a 7:45 kickoff. I need to double check. We'll post on socials which one of those 4 games is SLC. I'm pretty sure it's the Dragon Sharks game because they seem to be going for. Because they seem to be prioritising the games based in Wales, so they don't have to pay airfare, I'm guessing. So as I sort of alluded to in my review of the Lions game, I think Cardiff, unless they can tighten up their discipline and make sure we've shored up the defensive things, all our pretty attacks going to struggle against Munster. I think having beef him in that midfield might help with some of the physicality in that regard. He'll also add us a really good aspect to our kicking game because he does have a bit of a howitzer there. I say I'd be tempted, the temptation to have Lawrence and Faletau in the back row. The other option is maybe you have Lawrence bench and Ben Donnell adding in even more bulk and not sacrificing that line-out option. Because we kind of do, as useful as Faletau is as a line-out forward, we do seem to prefer him as a midfield carrier. And I think going up against the line-outs and you strip back Munster's new strip back line-out, I think it's going to be useful to have some good jumpers in there. I'm not positive of a win. I don't think we'll get 2 points, but I think 2 points would be a good return. Good return for us. We're a team that Munster seem to have it. They can either deal with us or they really struggle. And I know a lot of Munster supporters call us sticky because we just never really quite get away from them. They've got some big, some proper big boys there. I said, as well as Gleeson. You've got Big Tom Ahern at 6. I believe either Edwin or Sean Adogbo, they're 2 big lock 6 type players. I think they're starting to come back into fitness. Where the Munster have come off relatively light for their injuries for a change. And I said now they've got 2 decent options at 10 with JJ coming back. I don't know how this game is going to go. I really don't. I'm hoping we just back up. I'm just hoping we back up a good performance against the Lions.
Do you think, seeing as it's a bit of a game where it's unlikely to be a win, it's going to be a physical game, do you risk bringing Faletau in straight off an injury when we know that over the last couple of years he's maybe been a bit delicate?
Well, I mean, I think this is more discussion for Cardiff Central, and they'll be recording tomorrow as we're recording, and that should be in your feed on Wednesday.
Nice little plug.
Thank you for that setup, but I'm not at the part.
Can I just ask a general question, but related to Ben Thomas? If somebody gets a 20-minute red card, is it deemed then an automatic ban? How does that work?
Yeah, so how it worked in the World Cup, which I'm going to assume is how it's going to roll out in the URC, it has generally gone to an automatic ban. And depending on which team it is, seems to widely vary how long the ban is.
Okay.
If they like the team, it tends to be slightly shorter. But I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, I'd guess.
Yeah. So you wouldn't think Ben Thomas in this instance would be available?
No.
No, he definitely. I don't think he will be available. Probably looking at 2. The going rate seems to be for this about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Because they
sometimes they surprise
just
you.
Shoot. Yeah, I mean they probably just gone on the whole thing of, well, normally what we do is we go through the whole rigmarole of, it's 6 weeks down to 3, and then you do tackle school or whatever. I'll just give it 2 weeks to get on with it. Which 2 matches, which thankfully he's supposed to be playing for Old Penarthians this weekend and the Rags, so he's free to play next weekend.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I know England got a red card. I think it was Molly Packer, and she got a week, and everyone thought it was very short. And I'm just wondering if it's deemed that the other player was illegal coming in, whether or not that would downgrade it to 1
I
week.
got you.
That would be my consideration.
All I'm going to
It's
have
all
with
very
counter
up
that
in
is
the air.
it was 1 week because it was exactly one match between that game and England starting
the World Cup.
campaign.
And then
I'm
she
not
only
saying
played
that's
one
the
game.
decision, but-
Allegedly.
And then she only played one game in the World Cup, I think. So pointless.
Yeah, it was like Owen Farrell's ban. Sexton have had bans of their last World Cups, which just so happened to sit so that it finished before their first game. Anyway, that's won't go into the foibles of that or a bit. So anyway, now it's prediction time. So for this season, I'm only going to be doing a roundup of predictions at the end of each sort of block of games. So I'll give the first one to at the end, just before the autumn internationals. Then there'll be one after the Christmas derbies, one after the Six Nations. Just so you get one going on with that. So I'm going to start with my own predictions, just to sort of shake it up. So, and just to prove that I'm not listening to everyone and then going through. I always get mine in usually on the Sunday. So we're going to go Stormers, Ospreys, Dragons, Sharks, Connacht, Scarlets, Munster, Cardiff. So I think Stormers going to win by 15. I think Sharks going to win by 4. Because I've just got a feeling they are going to bullshit their way to a try last minute. Connacht, I think, are going to win by 5, and I think Munster will beat Cardiff by 14. Next on my list is Nick. So, Nick, what predictions have you got?
Heart says Ospreys to win. Head says Stormers to win by 4.
Yep.
Dragons to win by 2.
Yeah, big boy, come on.
Connacht to win by 8. And Munster to win by 13.
Undercutting me there. I mean, when they win by 15, I'll look great, so it doesn't really matter. Right, Dan, on to you next.
Okay, I think Stormers are going to win, and I think they'll win in a similar vein to the Bulls. Actually, I think it'll be potentially another high-scoring game where the Ospreys will do well, come away with a bonus point, and I'm going to say Stormers by 10. Okay, on to the main event of the weekend, and that's the men of Gwent against the Sharks, and I'm going to go Dragons by 6. I'm going to go Connacht by 12. And I'm going to go Munster by 5.
I like it, optimism. Hattie, now before you tell me how terrible you are at these again, you were in the lead after the first 2 games.
I know. You told me, and I'm raging. Absolutely raging. I have to be honest, I think you've all been a bit too nice to the Ospreys, and I don't say that as a Scarlets fan, I say that as somebody who saw the Stormers absolutely smash Leinster. So by that, I am going to say Stormers by like 19. I think Dan's right. I think it'd probably be a bit of a high scoring game, but I think they'll pull ahead. I'm going to say it's going to be a nail biter, and I'm going to say Dragons by 1.
The League of predictions.
Yeah. And then Scarlet's game, I'm going to have hope in my own side. I don't know why. And I'm going to say Scarlet's by 4. And then I'm going to say Munster by 9.
So those are those predictions. I hope you're all following on at home. So before we wrap up, there's one thing I was going to propose to say, and this is going to be a bit of audience participation where you send us in. So I want to do almost a community corner where we sort of reach out and talk about aspects of the community game. We've all played the game to varying degrees, or been supporters at grassroots level. Obviously, Dan, it's always great hearing Dan's triumphs with Abbotsbury and my utter woeful showings for the Old Pens Misfits. We'd like to hear what any clubs you want to highlight, because someone's doing something particularly well, whether it's a charity thing or they've won their first game in 3 years, I think. So please do send us messages through. So you can go into DMs on the rap accounts on X X, Facebook, and Blue Sky. Yes, Blue Sky still exists apparently. I mean, the only reason I went on there was because there was no one on there. So I said, if this thing, I said, me and Dad, myself and Dad have spoken a bit about our community stuff. Hattie, Nick, anything you want to highlight? Whether it's age grade community.
I can't think of anything, unfortunately.
I have just sprung this on these two, so that's me being mean.
I think it was the week before, but I think RGC had a big win. I think they lost against Llandovery last weekend, but the week before, who did they beat?
Came down to beat Pontypool in Pontypool Park.
Well, they went in the rain, weren't they?
In the rain, yeah.
I think that was quite an achievement.
Yeah, massive win for them, that, yeah. And Swansea picked up a good win. A few guys from your region, they beat the current SRC champions, Newport.
Yeah, that was a good win.
But yeah, very, very torrid time for Newport so far. Played 3, lost 3. If you want to hear more about Super Rugby Cymru, so when I'm talking community game, I mean,
yeah, I know.
Grassroots. But if you want to hear more about Super Rugby Cymru, check out on the Rap channel. We do have the Super Rugby Cymru podcast.
I'll give one more shout out actually for the Super Rugby Cymru lot. You may want to cover your ears, Harley.
Yeah, hang on. I'm going to beat you to this. Yes, Ebbw Vale trebled up the Rags. Well, they trebled up the children of the Rags due to our own injury issues.
Your own injury issues. Where's under-20 Lucid playing on Saturday? And Mr. Emmanuel come from Bath. Big summer signing for Cardiff Rugby, established 2019. And he was turning out for Cardiff RFC on the weekend. Established 1870
be alone
something.
As a rag signing, and you know it.
Oh well.
And mainly the poor schmucks who are in Ebbw Vale. Oh wait, there's some absolutely fantastic players, including former Scarlets and Dragons scrum half Johnny Evans.
I don't think Johnny's playing anymore, is he? But I tell you what, it would have been a little bit of a different afternoon, wouldn't it, for young Yo? And he's normally used to running around what's the training base at Bath and at the stately home, and then he's getting
Farley House,
yeah, and then he's
going to Eugen Cross.
Then he's getting hosed at Eugene Cross Park by 60 on the weekend. Welcome to senior rugby.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing about the result is how happy it made Gav, and frankly, a happy Gav makes me happy.
It did.
I'd also.
Well, go on. Sorry, Hat.
Oh, I was going to say. Also, obviously, we're talking about men's rugby here. But if there's any women's rugby that's going on, or wheelchair rugby, because that does come under the WRU in Wales. I know that the Dragons wheelchair guy on Instagram is very active. If he wants to send us anything, they've got loads of stuff going on.
Yeah, let's have a chat about it. I got 2 more things for discussion actually in terms of this last weekend, because when you mentioned it, Harley, I thought, well, there's I like chatting about rugby, so let's throw it out there. I got to give an honourable mention to Zebra this weekend.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because I thought that was a fantastic win, especially considering at the end of last season they were officially gone, I think, at one point, and they hemorrhaged a load of players and they were changing and there was all this upheaval there. So good on them to pick up that result against Edinburgh, and I think they were good value for it as well. And the other thing that I wanted to open to the forum really was I was really disappointed actually that John Mitchell picked up the Coach of the Year award at the World Rugby Awards post World Cup. Now, I'm not taking anything away from England's achievements at the World Cup, but the reality is it would be an abject failure if England didn't win it. So it was almost like, for me, it should have been the Canadian coach.
Yeah, it should have been Roe. I mean, this is something that, seeing as Harley got a plug-in, I'll get a plug-in for Women's Rugby Treehouse, because we'll probably rant about it where that comes out on Wednesday. But yeah, I mean, I've said it on Women's Rugby Treehouse that I personally don't think that John Mitchell is the best coach. I don't think he's a good women's coach. I think coaching the two is very different. And I don't think he's adjusted particularly well. I think that the England team of 2022 would beat the England team of 2025. Granted, 2025 won the World Cup, but the 2022 team was just a lot slicker and just frankly better. I just think he's won it for the sake that they won the World Cup, whereas actually what Rouet has done is far more of an impressive feat than the guy who's got all of the finances and a huge backroom staff and in a home World Cup.
And
I couldn't agree more.
one other name I would say, even though they didn't do anything in the World Cup as such, actually Swiss de Bruin as well, because he's basically taken the bot women from not really
Nothing.
being a thing to, so I think they was it second or third in their pool. Yeah, because
They were
they're
second.
second
It was
in
the
the
first
pool.
time they'd ever made the quarterfinals. They held the Black Ferns to equal at half time.
Yeah, I do feel it's one of the things. It's one of my gripes with the Coach of the Year awards. Always is that it quite often goes to like a team that's winning the most, not necessarily the coach who's done the most with the team they've got.
I think though, if Swiss keeps going, it's kind of up in the air at the moment whether or not he'll continue being head coach. But I think we could see him win again. Although usually women's coaches don't win in non-World Cup years, but it would be nice to see him carry on, and I think we'll definitely be seeing him in the nominate. Well, you don't even see nominations, but I think he'll be in conversation going forward.
Can I just mention, Harley's mentioned already the Cardiff game, obviously a lot earlier, but shout out to Ben, friend of the pod, Ben Breakspear. Despite the rain, he looked very slick and very cool and very smart in his assistant ref role at Cap on Saturday night.
He certainly did.
I will not make a comment about some of his facial expressions when he was in deliberations with the ref, because I would not do that to our friend, to a friend of the pod, Ben Breakspear.
And I
Did
do.
you go on?
Oh, I was going to say, speaking of the World Cup, because it just popped into my head, we've got 2 Welsh World Cup winners,
Yes,
Luce
we
Pack
have.
and Meg Jones. They may be turncoats, but
Yeah, they
Well,
are.
I'll be honest, I can't blame them with the state of the women's game at the moment. So,
Did you guys also catch up on the championship rugby over the weekend? The Australia, you know what, the Australia game for me, I thought Australia were really good again. At Eden
Improving.
Park, improving all the time. It puts into perspective that Lions Test series result.
Yeah. True.
I think because I also think that they can beat the All Blacks in Australia on the weekend. They've just had Valentini back into the squad.
And
Big Willie,
Skelton.
Big Willie, Little Willie's in the squad as well. So let's see the sort of ballast that he'll add from the second row. And I thought that South Africa Argentina game again was, what was it, 63, 30,
Yeah. I don't know.
30 something, sack the defence coaches, because it's international rugby. It's meant to be like, 12-9 or something like that.
and that game had my favourite goal line dropout I've ever seen.
The other one as well was with the fly half, Sasha.
Yeah.
Someone help me out with the surname, the double barrel
Feinberg
surname.
on
Feinberg
Gummer.
where he chipped and he kicked a crossfield kick and managed to retrieve it, which was, I don't know whether you've seen that. That's he was 37 points he picked up in his personal haul on the weekend. He was fantastic, and
That's got to be close to a record in a match.
I think against like tier 1 nations it is. There'll be some people that
No,
have picked up.
there isn't. The record is like 67, 68, and it's a New Zealand fly half
Of course it is.
in a World Cup game.
Against who though?
I can't remember.
Is it that?
But it was a World
absolute
Cup
goat in
game.
Japan?
No. It's from like 1990 something.
Yeah,
Yeah, it sounds like New Zealand Japan where they like won like 120-0 or something. It was.
It was 145-19 or something, wasn't it? It was a ridiculous game. But no, there was loads of rugby on the weekend. It included it was cup weekend in Wales over the weekend for all the grassroots club. And whilst we're on it, I don't know what you guys think about this, but the first round, at the very least, the first round, and I think further down the competition, a couple of rounds closer, but it's still all regionalised, even though it's a Welsh Cup. So the WRU split the cup at the moment from Premiership Cup, Champ Cup, all the way down to Division 6. But it's regionalised, so we played at Tallawayne and Gwent Derby, which was an East Championship fixture, which I kind of understand, but I was a little bit I'm a little bit disappointed with. I like the cup being, I would have liked to have gone to a Tata Steel or
So I think down to Div 5, that was, I say, because obviously Old Pens went away to Blackwood. So
yeah,
I think that's Gwent. That's a Wales Gwent.
And
Kind
I
of,
think
central
I think
Gwent, so, which
I
is
th-
quite nice.
and I think
And
up
I know
here
some
as
other
well,
teams played like West Wales teams.
for North Wales, the geography is quite vast anyway. Even if you have some like Pwllheli playing Flint,
yeah.
it's quite a journey. So to send them down to Talawain or Pembroke Dock is quite a way.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I get why they do it as well, because I suppose, you're looking at more
Mm.
local derbies, really, I
Yeah.
suppose, which draw bigger crowds and so
Hmm.
on and so forth. So I kind of get why they do it, but the magic of the cup really is bringing someone else or traveling
Yeah.
away and having
Yeah.
a social on the bus. I don't know, but there you go.
Mm.
We move on
So
to next week where we play
I
Glamorgan
think
Wanderers, 2:30 Abbott Lady Park. I'll get my plug in if any if anybody's at a loose end on Saturday afternoon.
I think that's
Nick, do you have
technically
a
my
plug?
closest.
No, I don't.
Well, are the Welsh pod up and running?
No, we had unfortunately we weren't able to start last week, but we will hopefully start on Thursday night, and we're hoping Cy Williams is joining us.
Ooh.
So I'm sure that'll be quite controversial. Cy's views on the
You're gonna
Welsh
have to get me an
Rugby
English
Union
transcript of that one.
are not the most positive, as his successful books have shown.
Now, what I'm hoping for this Friday is that Nick's going to send into the WhatsApp group a picture of a pint again, like Lance Bradley as he did this weekend. Look at just rubbing it into everybody else. Oh, look, here I am sat having a casual beer.
I'm still jealous of the fact he went to South Africa. So
That's the life of a retired gentleman for you. I'm telling you now. It's,
it'd be
he's
nice.
he's
It'd be nice to be of a
he's
generation
making the
where
most of
retirement was
it.
an option.
Absolutely.
Right.
Fantastic.
Anyway, the one I was going to add a point about the rugby championship, but it's basically just how I don't think I've ever seen the table this close in the last round where you could conceivably have all four teams won 3, lost 3. I mean, it probably won't happen, but the fact that it could is
Mind blowing.
so
I think it's
unreal.
brilliant. I think it's brilliant for the game, and I think this year's Six Nations is going to be closer than it has been for a while as well. I'm just throwing it
But
out there now.
the 5 of the 6 teams, I think.
Can I finish on a positive one there before we say goodbyes? Is that look at the improvements Australia made. So,
Yeah,
it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Wales might improve.
and
Please don't point out it happened after the Rebels went bust and they went down from 5 to 4. Because 4 is the optimal number.
4's the optimal number. Yeah. On that point though, I thought we're going on about the additional rugby on the weekend. I thought a lot of the Welsh personnel playing in England did well on the weekend as well. Louis
Yeah.
Rees-Zammit, I thought he looks
Yeah.
bigger. The speed to beat Hassel Collins to the corner, where he had like 20 meters on him on an angle as well, was just
Mm.
fantastic. He's got to go straight back into the Autumn International side without a shadow of a doubt, because he'll put bums in seats as well.
Exactly.
And who was the lad who played outside centre for Bristol as well? Who they signed from Cardiff Met?
Josh Carrington.
Carrington,
Was it-
like the look at him. I think he was playing
Was it
for.
12?
I think he played
Jenkins
12.
was playing as well. He looked good.
Dav Jenkins.
Dav Jenkins, and then there's also Joe Jenkins, I think.
Joe
who's,
Jenkins.
at Bristol. Who looked
Yeah,
good.
but I was impressed with Carrington. Dav Jenkins come off a bench, and I saw him run across the field on like a wide angle shot. He looked absolutely massive. I think he's been on the same meal plan as the tight head from the Lions over.
Yeah, he's used his rehab. I do say I do believe like we need to get more into a habit of giving key players summers off.
Yeah.
But I think it showed with when I think how Adam Beard, stunted a bit, and he just looked knackered from just playing constantly. So I think he basically ended up with a 24-month season from World Cup to Lions. So and no one, and actually pivot dropping him seemed to be the best thing for him because he just came back refreshed. I think things about Chunza looked decent for the half he was on, and industrious more than
I thought he did right
effective.
again.
But I think people need to accept he's not going to be this big ball carrier. I think he is just going to be an absolute menace at in attacking breakdowns.
Line-out
nuking
option.
people off and just accept him being the
Option,
workhorse.
yeah. Good athlete. He was around
Johnny
the field.
Green as well in Harlequins, although it was
Yeah.
in a losing effort. I thought he looked again quite good.
How old is
Not-
Johnny Green?
21.
I think I was going to say he's only just left the under-20s, hasn't he?
Yeah, he played this season
So-
before.
Of course he did, yeah. And these are the sort of boys I'd be looking at. You know, if they're good enough, they're old enough. We need to sort of, especially these guys with a bit of X factor. But I'm already looking at the makeup of that squad for the autumn, which is not that far away. These autumn internationals, and it's starting to look better. You know, Joe Hawkins back in the country. I'd be willing. I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes. Whether it's at 10 or 12, the fact that we could have Louis Rees-Zammit in the squad, you know, he's a genuine try-scoring threat from anywhere on the field. You're going to throw, hopefully, a fit Faletau maybe into that. A Jack Morgan. I thought Dewi Lake was outstanding on the weekend. You know, all of these people are starting to take shape. So, you know, fingers crossed. We heard it here first. Grand Slam 2026. Think I've said it out loud.
So as we've sort of broached on the autumn squad, when we get closer that be announced, we'll obviously review the squad when it comes out, and we'll sort of preview our picks and who we think. And I think I'll use that point as well. We'll discuss some of our new signings and see who's sort of living up to expectations, who we want to see more of. Anyway, that's the end of the pod. Thank you all for listening to that, especially with all the extra digressions we want to do. It just leaves me to thank Hattie, Nick, and Dan for joining me. Hope everyone enjoys their rugby and that my team win. I don't really care about the rest. Goodbye.
Good luck.
Good night.
That was RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.